don't lead with the word prenup.
Okay.
You know, I think we all recognize that the term prenup or prenuptial agreement carries a lot of stigma, it carries a lot of weight, it's heavy, has a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people, they hear the word prenup and it brings to mind, you know, the Hollywood version of the prenup.
Okay.
The athletes and the celebrities, and, you know, you're an old rich guy and you're trying to keep your money from a young, you know, gold digging wife. That's what comes to people's minds when they think about a prenup.
Yeah.
Instead of this partnership agreement for your marriage. And so what I advise people to talk about is, what do you want your financial future to look like? What do you want to accomplish? You know, is it a good idea for us to be transparent about our finances coming into the marriage? Is it a good idea for us to get clear about what belongs to you, what belongs to me, and what belongs to us as a couple? Should we talk about how the money is going to flow in our relationship? Are we going to do what I call the inside out, where all of the income goes into one joint bank account and then each spouse gets kind of an allotment that goes out into your separate bank accounts?
Okay.
Or are we going to have our money go outside in? Our money goes into our separate bank accounts and we contribute to a joint bank account that pays for our truly joint expenses.
Okay.
You know, are we going to prioritize retirement? You know, what are the things that we want to accomplish in our marriage? Do we want to buy a big home? Do we want to take 2 vacations a year? My wife and I, our big thing is travel. And so we decided that ahead of time, that 5% of all income that comes in our household is going to go into a travel fund, so that whenever we want to take a trip, the money's there, and the more that we make, the more we have to spend on our travel, right? And if you can focus on what your shared goals are together and get aligned on as many of these things as possible. And yes, you should talk about what would happen if we didn't make it. Could we agree on what would be fair to happen if our marriage does not make it till death do us part? Can we have that conversation while the love is high, while the trust is high, while communication is high, while the respect is high, rather than do what 40 to 50% of these couples do, and they have that conversation / argument when things are at an all-time low, and all of a sudden now you're spending 20 to 25% of your net worth on litigation costs and giving that money to divorce attorneys rather than dividing it between you and your spouse.
Aaron, I'm gonna say right here on my show, I've been doing it wrong. What's going on, everyone? It's your boy AO here, and I'm super excited to share some incredible news with you. On January 22nd through the 26th, we're launching a transformative movement called Pray FYI, short for Pray for Your Increase. We're believing 2024 will be the year we eliminate debt and build wealth. So real quick, I want to give you a sneak peek into what's happening January 22nd through the 26th. I want to encourage you to join myself and thousands of others in this week of prayer as we're diving into a series of powerful sessions, each focusing on a key aspect of financial well-being. Join this movement by visiting prayfyi.com. You see, day one, we're focusing on debt reduction and financial stress. We'll be praying for wisdom to identify and eliminate unnecessary expenses, making room for your financial growth and stability. On day two, it's all about increase in salaries and business income. We'll come together and pray for guidance in pursuing career opportunities, promotions, and the skills needed to boost our income. Day three is all about increase in wealth and investment opportunities. Let's pray for discernment and wisdom. We need this in making sound financial decisions that lead to long-term, I mean generational prosperity. On day four, we're tackling boosting multiple streams of income. Together, we'll pray for creativity and opportunities to diversify our income streams, creating financial abundance. And finally, on day five, enhancing legacy. Let's pray for discernment and wisdom in making some sound financial decisions that lead to long-term prosperity. I want to personally invite you to join me on this journey of financial and spiritual growth. Listen, I can't wait to see you there. Visit prayfyi.com to get started. I'll see you soon. I've been doing it wrong. What I just heard you say was have a conversation about the vision for the couple's money. And in any kind of vision that you set, there's always if the vision doesn't happen, how do we fix it? What do we do with it? And I think anyone watching right now, if you are presented with that, like, hey, you know, what are you doing with your finances now? You know, what are your goals financially? You know, what do you want to do financially? What do we want to do financially? Da 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 da. Do we want to travel? Do we want to build a home? Do we want to set aside college fund? You know, do we want to retire at 65? Da 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 da. Like, how are we going to accomplish these goals? And if you and I can't do this and hit this vision, how do we deal with that if that comes? I don't know too many people who genuinely love each other who would not want to have that conversation. I am almost tempted to say, and I'm gonna say it. If we have a love conversation for 90%, where it's all 90% good, and the last 10% is probably an uncomfortable conversation, like if it doesn't, and you're like, no, I don't want to talk about that, I don't know if you love me. I don't know if you love me. You want to talk about everything great, which on the flip side, I've said this too publicly. We're talking about prenups today, but man, this is a good show. I hope y'all are getting this info because now I'm feeling convicted. I can't say this because I'm not a parent, right? So if I'm saying this wrong, please forgive me. I'm just trying to say it the best way I know how to say it. I know that parents love their children, but to the extent to where you don't have a trust in place for your children, I question, do you know what you're doing? I know you love them, but it's like, do you really love them? You got a Gucci backpack, you got a Louis Vuitton purse, but you don't have a trust that clearly outlines what you want done with you, your resources, and your assets after they pass. So now you leave it into the hands of the government to tell your family and your kids and your loved ones what to do, but you didn't want to be uncomfortable to talk about your what happens with you and your assets and your stuff after passing. Now it's like, okay, you're saying you want to get married to someone, but you don't want to be uncomfortable to have a conversation that could save you both time and resources if it does end. And I think, honestly, prenups could save your marriage. Because if you don't want to have the conversation about a prenup, I don't know if I want to get married to you. And I just saved my marriage. Because it's like, if you're willing to have an uncomfortable conversation that lets me know while we're married, you are willing to have uncomfortable conversations. This is some good stuff right here, y'all. We're going to put this man's book in the show notes. Aaron and his team, listen to me. Aaron and his team do this in all 50 states. And I asked Aaron before the show, I said, Aaron, how much does it cost? Do you charge per couple, per situation? And they pretty much have two basic costs. And correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, here. It's $3,500 for the average person in America to get a prenup. Then you have someone like, say, of my status or celebrity status or higher is going to start at $10,000 because now you're dealing with millions in assets and different things, and he has to talk with other like my financial advisor, my CPA, my stuff like that. He has to do all that type of stuff, right? The average marriage in America is right at about $28,000 to $32,000, and you can't spend 10% of that to just make sure, like, hey, as we're going in, this is right. Because here's the truth. We're seeing marriages end 25 years later, 30 years later. I am positive. I'm turning 40 this year. The 70-year-old Anthony ONeal is going to be a different version of the 40-year-old Anthony ONeal. And I'm putting it on me. Now, when I get married at 40, that's till death do us part. I'm going to keep it a buck. I mean, you know, if I waited 40 years, you had to kill me. But I am going to change between now and 70 years old. And that could be a little different for someone else. And the person she married at 40 is not going to be the person she's married to at 70. I would have evolved. I would have grown, matured, hopefully at 70. But here's the truth. People do change. And you do not divorce the person you married. And so if $3,500 is a problem, to protect your marriage, to protect you and your assets, I have a problem with that. I genuinely do.